Hi and welcome to Beyond Authentic. This is another podcast here on the channel. This is Witchy Wednesday with Witchcraft and Magical Practice on a Budget. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Neil.
And as I say, today we are going to be discussing witchcraft and magical practice. So then, Neil, first of all, you've got something you particularly wanted to talk about with all of this, but for those of everybody, that's good, isn't it? For everybody, I'm going to leave that in as well. For everybody listening to this on the audio, they're not going to be able to see the wonderful things we are wearing today. And for those of you watching this on the channel, you're probably not really used to us looking this way. So do you want to explain what we're wearing and why and all of that?
Well, we're both wearing robes.
We are.
Lisa's wearing a nice red robe with a black strip at the top of it.
Which I can never get centered. It's really annoying.
And I'm wearing a black robe with a ridiculously massive hood.
Yeah, but you see, now you need to show them. Now you need to show the podcast viewers the state of the hood. Are you ready? Look at this. This is, I mean, that is excessive fabric right there. I mean, I thought mine was bad, but at least mine's got a little like tassely bit on the back, so you've got a little fun kind of little knobbly tassely thing. But yeah, so we are both wearing robes. So but how does that fit in with budget, like with a budget month? How does that fit in with that?
Well, my robe, before I joined the IoT back in the day, they said, well, you need a robe and a ring that has the chaos sphere on it. And they said, well, how you get those is up to you, but it's kind of those days you can't exactly order things from a catalogue, so you had to kind of improvise. So I went to my mum, who's very good with a sewing machine, and went, Mum, can you make me kind of like a robe? And she was like, why? What are you doing? And I was like, I've joined a coven. And she was like, okay, yeah, right. What material have we got here? So
that's amazing.
So basically, I was laid out on this black fabric. I have an inkling that these probably were curtains at some point, and she kind of drew out a basic shape, did the hood, and I do not remember this hood being this big. But I went to like group rituals with the IoT, and they were just like, "Well, it's a robe, it'll do." And it's like, "Well, yeah." It's robe shaped. It's functional. I mean, I cannot remember this hood being this big, and I don't understand how I even functioned in a group with this.
But no, it is. I mean, it is impressive. It is an impressive hood. No, I love that story, because for me, if I'd done that to my mum, I would have had to have said something like, do you remember when you made me like a Star Trek uniform for a convention? Well, now I'm really into Star Wars and I want to be a Jedi. I would have had to have done something like that and gone, yes, I need a Jedi outfit. But mine is actually, technically, it's not a robe. Technically, it is a cloak, and it is, I got this in a charity shop, and I didn't buy it as a cloak. I mean, it is a cloak, but that isn't why I bought it. I bought it because I wanted to use the fabric, because I actually bought a coat. Again, I'm such a budget bitch. I bought a coat on eBay or somewhere secondhand, and it was this really nice, it's called Joe Brown's. It's this really nice plus size designer, and they're all like a little bit alternative and a little bit kind of, well, I would describe it as middle class hipster alternative, if that makes sense. Okay. It's like you buy a top, but then there's like bits of other tops that have been cut up and used to make it, but they're all exactly the same. So it's not like somebody's done it handmade. It's all like pre-thought out, and it's all like made in Germany and shipped over. So anyway, I found this coat, and it fitted me perfectly, apart from the sleeves, and they were about maybe 3 or 4 inches too short. And so, but it's the same fabric as this. It's that same sort of woolen, like expensive woolen sort of cloak material. And so I bought it because I thought, this is edged in this really nice black brocade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off some strips and attach it to the inside of the cuffs. And then when I got this home and I actually looked at what I'd bought, because I'd just seen it as like I thought it was like a fancy dress thing hanging up. And then when I saw it, I was like, I can't cut that up. For a start, I don't know whether it's been used in rituals and therefore it's carrying sort of essence of magical essences. And secondly, I was like, but I've got another cloak. I haven't got like a warm, thick one for wintertime rituals. And so I kept it, and it became that. And to this day, my coat, I still haven't fixed the sleeves on that coat, but I do wear this sometimes. But I do need to take it off because it is rather annoying with that on camera with that thing down the front. But I then also have another cloak, and this is one that I have had for, again, absolutely donkey's years. And this is a Dark Star cloak. And if anybody has been in the alternative sort of gothy realm for a while, Dark Star is one of those companies that make sort of the crushed velvety type things. And you can see, like, this one, for those of you listening on the podcast, this one is a lot more, it's sort of crushed velvet, and it's in a dark blue with purpley sort of galaxy type effect on it. And it's got this rich Cadbury's purple lining, and it's also got, really usefully, where is it? Hang on, it's got like
holes in it. That's
holes
good.
in it, so you can stick your arms through, so when you're lighting your candles, you're not actually, you know, setting the robe on fire. But this also has a hood, but it's a slightly more usable hood than your one. So, and again, this was secondhand. I think this cost me, I think the red one cost me, I think £6, because I was just like, oh, that's going home with me just for the fabric. But I think this one was like £10 or £12. And really, I have had this for probably 15 years. And it's been to pagan camps, and it's been in ritual. It's been in many circles over the years with group gatherings and solo workings and all sorts. And it's just I just love it, because everyone else turns up in sort of darker colors, and there's me kind of swanning around in this like this amazing sort of purpley blue sort of galaxy color.
Really nice.
It's so cool. It's like peacocky colors. I love it. And again, they're all like, oh, you know, my cloak cost me this amount, and I paid £200, and I'm like, yeah, tenner in a charity shop. Thank you very much. And for me, that's the biggest win. I'm going to leave this one on because this one sits a lot easier. So there we go. So that is, for those of you listening, do go across to the YouTube channel. Look at my hair now. I look like the hag of the village. I really do. I look like what I'm growing into, which is an old age crow.
It's a magical cloak. You took it off. It is.
I take it off, and suddenly I've got the twigs in my hair, even though I've not been near a twig in weeks. But yeah, absolutely. But if you want to know what all this looks like, and you're listening to this, do go and check out the YouTube channel Beyond Authentic. The I in Authentic is spelled with a 1, and then just look for the Witchy Wednesday with podcast. It's on its own playlist, so do check that out. And then if you're there, give it a little tickle, the little subscribe button. Just tickle, and then you become a weirdling. You become a wonderful weirdling, which is what I call all my subscribers. So yeah. So then we wanted to talk about budget, partly because on my other channel we're really focusing on budget makeup brands, budget beauty. We've just done a couple of videos on like magic bags and budget food options and things like that. So we really are, you know, focusing in January on budgets, because everybody would have overspent over Christmas and winter, and we know that after a pandemic, and still in the pandemic, that money is tight for a lot of people. But obviously a lot of people that watch witchy content won't have large budgets, because a lot of people that watch this sort of content on YouTube, they are younger, they might be, you know, looking to get into witchcraft for the first time. And so, yeah, budgets, I think, are really important. But there is another reason, and we've both talked for ages how this other focus on budget is something that really pisses both of us off, which is in terms of gatekeeping. So do you want to explain sort of your views on witchy gatekeeping in terms of finances?
Yeah. Okay. So Austin Osman Spare, who I've mentioned before, is the grandfather of chaos magic. He was a working class artist, occultist in the late 1800s, and he went into Aleister Crowley's magical order for a bit in the early 1900s, and he noticed that it was very rigid and hierarchical. He didn't like all that, but also it was very middle to upper class people who were in this magical order, and he referred to them as, quote, the unemployed dandies of the brothels, which means that he thought they were born into money, so they could afford all the kit, they had big enough houses to do all these ceremonial things, which that magical order was really into, doing ceremonial stuff. Also, they had all the time on their hands because they were unemployed, because they just had the luxury. They were educated enough to understand the books. So yeah, he just kind of saw them as, you know, gatekeeping, almost like magic was done by the upper classes, you know, who kind of had time and the money to do it. And he thought it was a load of rubbish, because he thought, well, magic should be for everybody. It should be accessible by everybody. It shouldn't be a term. It shouldn't be a thing of, oh, you must have all the money and you must be rich and you must have a big house to do all this. You know, he said, well, why do I have to have all those things? So what he was all about was, you know, he thought that all you needed to do magic was will and intent. And he said, well, if you have enough will and intent, then you don't need to have all these tools. So he was all about honing the will and intent and kind of making it so that he and other people could just tap into their own, you know, magic. And, you know, people could do it who were poor, and he himself was living in a squat, and, you know, poor artist. And he's become a massive influence in magic. And, you know, that formed, you know, and inspired what chaos magic is, which is pretty much just using whatever's at your disposal, you know, not having to think, well, I'm going to become a witch. I need this and this. I need this book, you know. And I really do, you know, really love Austin Osman Spare for doing that kind of, just kind of pushing magic that way. Because I mean, Crowley, before then it was just Crowley kind of flouncing around, you know, just, you know,
being flouncing around dressed in a cloak, being all elaborate.
Yeah. Well, you know, we haven't got enough money to go to Egypt and sit in a temple for weeks and talk to angels, you know. So, you know, some of us have to do with sitting at home in a cloak made by their mum and one from a charity shop.
Absolutely. No, I think that is, I think that's an amazing point of view, because again, it's that thing of, it's the reason that I have issue with some of the Wiccan gatekeepers, and especially the modern Wiccan gatekeepers, because when I got into the Wiccan side of the craft and then realized that it wasn't for me, even then there were authors and there were people like Scott Cunningham. Now, whatever you think of Scott Cunningham, whether you think he was good for the craft or bad for the craft, he was very much about make your own like items. You know, you haven't got a cauldron, a bowl will do, something else will do, and that I really, really like. And that is the sort of ethos that sort of fits my type of folk craft, because I would say a lot of my influence is very, you know, I class myself as a hedge witch in both meanings of the word, but it is very folksy. It is very like folk craft. And so for me, you know, when I pick up a book and I pick up Gardner's Buckland's Big Blue or the Witch's Bible, and it's talking about you must have a censer and you must have a pentacle and you know, you must have all of these tools and the trappings and the wand and the athame, and you've got to have, you know, this particular candle that you like to then light other candles off, and it just became this whole thing. And for a while I bought into that. And for a while I was like, oh, I want to have this jewel encrusted, like amazing athame that's going to do these wonderful, you know, it's going to somehow make me a witch. It's going to make me a practitioner. And it didn't last very long, but I'm somebody that, you know, I have to actively, I'm loving the crone hair, by the way. But I am somebody who has to actively not spend money. I can't, if I'm passive, I'll just be at 3 o'clock in the morning on apps, on website or on Amazon, just going, oh yeah, that looks, I love that. And then all of a sudden, like 2 days into the month, I'm skint and I'm like, why have I got no money? Oh yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning, I bought £200 worth of camera equipment. Why did I do that? So that's just one of my issues that I've always had. But when it comes to the craft, I like very rapidly, I was like, okay, I get the idea to have these stuff, because again, this is my cloak and I wear it when I'm doing high ceremonies and when I am on a full moon, sometimes I'll do a full moon ritual, but generally speaking, this comes out on the big ceremonies, which for me is normally winter and summer solstice, and sometimes the cross quarters, but definitely winter and summer solstice. For me, those two are like when I do, like, that's my version of ceremonial magic. And it isn't ceremonial magic in the way that, you know, that now means, but it's my go, and I will get out all of the gubbins, and I will get out the special items that for the rest of the year live in the cabinet of curiosities, and then they sit in there, and then they come out those one special times. And it's a bit like, you know, at Christmas, your auntie will have that gravy boat.
I was gonna say,
the Christmas
yeah.
gravy boat. And it's like certain items having a special purpose and a special meaning, I completely get. But that doesn't mean that those items have to be expensive or that they have to be bought. Like, you can make all of those items yourself, and then you just keep, like, you decide whether an item is special or not, depending on what you use it for. But again, that gatekeeping that is still around today, oh, you must have these herbs, these crystals, these items to do witchcraft. Well, no, you don't. In my opinion, you don't need that.
No, not at all. I mean, I totally get what you're saying. Like, there is some stuff that it's all about the intent behind it. So it might be something really expensive that you really have thought, oh yeah, that's the one, and you get it out for special occasions because you have put all that intention into, this is for this, and I only get this out to do something big, you know. But yeah, just in general, you don't have to go out and get all these bits of kit that you might not necessarily ever use, just to have it laying prettily on an altar, you know. I think it's all just about getting the things that you're going to use, and it can be something cheap, and as long as you put all the intent into it, and also, just like making your own things. But yeah, for me, it's all just about the intent behind it. And you know, like, I know that you've got some things that have been made by friends, and I feel like that's a more special item than just kind of getting it from a shop, you know. So you've got an actual special bond to it. So I think that's
yeah, absolutely. On my channel, I did a video on I think it was on Samhain, my Samhain altar. In fact, I know it was on Samhain because I haven't changed the altar setup since then, because it just feels right for what's on my altar currently. The two skulls there, which represent sort of, it's just become this almost yin yang sort of Gemini energy, because I am very Gemini, and because I am very much a liminal sort of witch and a liminal person sitting between spaces. So this white and dark, but again, the dark one isn't black, it's actually very similar to this in color. And on the altar just there on that stand, which I also got in a charity shop, but on that there is a wand that I inherited from a friend of mine who passed away, and an athame that was given to me by another friend who later passed away. And so yeah, those are there, they're deeply meaningful to me, and those again are my special items. So they live on the altar year round, unless I am at a pagan camp, which for me is like a religious, it's like going to Mecca or something like that. It's like going to the Wailing Wall. You know, there's all these different pilgrimages that people go on. For me, my pagan camps, it's that kind of, that same energy for me. And the rest of the time they basically live there, apart from, again, summer solstice, winter solstice, and occasionally if I'm wanting to have that extra oomph in my energy and in my workings, because again, they are so personal to me and they do have such a strong meaning. But but if you are watching this or listening to this and you are wanting to have some tools, we've got some items to show you, really, haven't we? I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff here that, you know, we've picked up in charity shops and thrifted and all of that, but there's also some practical things as well. So I'm gonna show you a couple of practicals. So when you're starting off on witchcraft, one of the things that everybody, so I've got to say, my hair is so messy right now, and I am living for it. It's giving me proper, like, almost Stevie Nicks vibes. It's just doing its own thing. It can go its own way. Aha, a little Fleetwood Mac reference there. But like they always say, oh, you've got to have all these magical herbs. And when you go searching online for magical herbs, you're like, oh, I need basil and I need bay leaves, and I need rosemary, and I need all of these other ones. And you go, oh, I bet that's really expensive. And you search online for a magic shop to get things delivered. And you're like, oh yes, £3 for a sachet of magical basil. That's going to be amazing. Like, oh, I get 25 grams of magical basil. Or you go to Aldi and buy a whole pot of basil for 47p, and it comes in a little glass container that you reuse and put your own herb workings in, and your own spell powders and things. So other supermarkets are available. Or you need magical bay leaves for, you know, you get 6 in a packet. Or again, you go to Asda down the world food section, and you get whole packets of bay leaves for, again, I think this was 47p. And there are, I don't know how many there are in here, but there are lots and lots and lots of them. And bay leaves are one of those things that you can use in many different ways. You use them as incense, you can use them as offerings. You can do, one of the most common ways is you would write your wish, or write your sort of intent, or your in abundance workings and things. You'll write what it is on here that you want and attract it to you. Or you can also write on here something that you are getting rid of, or something that you want to clear from your life. And so you might write smoking as a negative habit. I want, you know, I'm going to quit smoking, and you burn that. And again, the intent is, as it burns, it either attracts or dispels, depending on how you do your working. But these are like, there's loads, and they're 47p. And I've literally seen packs of 6 of these on Etsy for like £1.50. I'm sorry, I run a witchcraft business on Etsy myself, right? So I completely understand the need to make profit. But when these are 47p, and you get probably, I mean, how many's here?
Yeah.
How many's here? Like virtually a whole bay tree. And like, yes, I understand you need to make some profit, but don't rip people off that don't know better. And that's one of the things that really bugs me. So yes, any magical herbs, before you look at your online magical retailer, and again, magical retailers, if you are watching this and you are thinking, shut up, Lisa, don't give away the secrets, that is like, shame on you for ripping people off. Because quite frankly, if somebody walks into a magic shop and they ask for some bay leaves or something else, and you are selling them 6 for $1.50, $2.50, $2, $3, whatever it is, you are scum, and you are just ripping people off. I detest you with a passion. That isn't what the craft is about. That again is another form of gatekeeping. Make your money where you will, but don't rip people off. And literally, sorry, rant over everybody, but if you are wanting herbs, go to your supermarket first. In the 21st century, most of us have access to large supermarkets. Wherever you are in the world, most herbs can be accessed through large supermarkets these days. Check them out there first. Go and have a look. Ask around in your local friends and family if they've got plants in their garden. Like, we grow rosemary, we grow lavender. You can get cuttings and grow them on really, really, really easy. You can buy herb seeds really cheap, and then you are growing everything from the ground up. You know what's going into all those items. And I'm sorry, but this bay leaf is just as magical as the ones that I can buy on Etsy for 3, 4, 5, 8 times the price. It's just a bay leaf, and as much as they may be blessed, you can bless all of your herbs yourself. Leave it under a full moon if you want to. Leave it under a new moon to give it that moon essence as well. But don't get ripped off by doing things. Sorry, that's just a personal bugbear of mine. It really is. It annoys me. It annoys me.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is people think it's almost like anything in life where, you know, different kind of, if something's a bit more expensive than the other brands, then you kind of assume, oh, it must be better quality. So if you're kind of pricing up something in a magical way, then people are like, oh, that must be more magical than just getting it at Asda or something.
Which I do get, and it depends on what the items are. If it's the basic ingredients of something, then I think you can search around for those basic ingredients. It's different if it was a spell kit, or like the candles that Kirsty makes, where she uses like the highest grade beeswax that is possible to get, organic scents and all of that, and she puts them together and she makes them in, you know, the tea light candle holders themselves are reusable plastic, and everything is biodegradable, and everything has come from that point. So I can understand, but if you are looking for the basic ingredients of something, like at that point, nothing's been put into them. They're just bay leaves. All somebody has done is buy them in wholesale, break them into little bags, put them into sachets, and mark them up by 3, 4, 8, 1200%. Like, that isn't, to me, that isn't ethical. Doing something with them, turning them into a spell kit, grinding them, crushing them, creating something different from them, absolutely. In the same way that if you go to a supermarket, you can go and buy a piece of meat, some vegetables, absolutely, for less than £5. That is one way of eating a meal. The other way is to go to a 5-star restaurant and have a Michelin star chef to come and, you know, get you this amazingly cooked something, and it's going to turn up and it's got like bits of gas coming off it, and it's, you know what I mean, it's been like dry froze and it's gone to space, and it's got a little reduction in jus of something else with a little dollop of something on top. Here's £700 worth, please. You know what I mean? I can understand. And it is that same thing. You take the raw ingredients, what it comes out like at the end is where your money is. But don't rip people off on the raw ingredients. That's wrong. That just annoys me. You know, anyway, rant over. Oh, Neil, talk about something else. Show us something that you've got budget-wise that it's going to calm my nerves, because this is something I could talk about all episodes because it annoys me.
Well, I was going to go into how, well, for me, I don't really have any set. God, this is annoying me now. I don't really have any.
Take the hood down if you need to.
No, I need it. The mystique. I don't really have any set tools per se. Like, I tend to use something and wear it out, and kind of, because I suppose maybe it's a chaos magic thing where you kind of, you lose your whatever kind of paradigm you're going down, then you kind of use what's suitable for that until you kind of run out and you don't really feel that way about that object anymore. So when I mean, going back to kind of like the IoT, I mean, when I got the robe, my mum made it, we had to have a ring, and my friend at the time had a bit of scrap metal, and he was like, I bet I could make you a ring. And I was like, all right. So he kind of just banged together this bit of metal and did some engraving on it, and that was it. And, you know, compared to everyone else's rings, which were quite fancy, I was just kind of like, well, this symbolizes everything that I do. This is kind of scrappy, and it's, you know, it really suited me.
I love that.
But anyway, so kind of as I kind of progressed through like my study, and they said, well, you know, obviously chaos magic, they're not asking you for the, you know, to get all this kit, but they'd give you projects and say, right, okay, find yourself a chalice that, you know, you think is suitable for you, and find yourself an athame, and why don't you, you know, wand and things like that. So, I mean, for my athame, I already had my dad's old penknife, which meant a lot to me anyway, because he kind of gave me that before he died. So to me, that was my athame. So I was like, okay, that'll do. You know, it's quite a grubby type thing. But then I went around, and to find wands, I just, you know, see a nice branch on the floor and go, oh, I quite like that. And I kind of just carve things into it. And I ended up with a total set of all different wands, you know, that I'd made for different purposes, you know, that were just branches I found.
That.
Yeah, so it was, and you know, things like I'd find a bit of branch, and then I'd be like, oh, well, what is it? I don't know what tree it is. So then I'd go and research and go, well, maybe it could be to do with this, you know, and I'll use it for this. And so I had quite a collection. But one I really, really liked, and then I broke it. It proper snapped in half. And I was like, I really like this. I wonder if I was to actually just sellotape it back together really crudely, would it still work? And it did. So I had this kind of shoved together really crudely sellotape thing.
Oh,
you know,
is it? Oh, you see, my knowledge of this is so not very good. But is it Ron Weasley that had a thing with a second-hand or buggered wand or something in Harry Potter? I don't know, because you don't know either, because we're not Harry Potter heads, are we? Oops, hang on.
So I mean, the best one was, I mean, I used to live next door to a halfway house, and every time that we left the flat, we would get loads of abuse. We'd get things thrown at us. You know, it was terrible. But, you know, after being given this task of find a chalice So I was like, okay. And then one day I went by the house, and a boy threw a pan at me, and I was like, this is perfect. This has come from a place of anger that this boy has thrown at me. And this is now my chalice that I like to do my angry shit in and burn stuff. So that was perfect. And like, so now I kind of do gravitate towards, just whenever a pan craps out in our house, I'm like, right, it's the next one then.
It's
And
the
then I
next
use
chalice.
and then I use it until until I, you know, I'm kind of done with it. So I tend to not really have set things. I just tend to use things for a bit and see what kind of resonates at the time. Like, I don't tend to have set items really. So
See, I love
yeah.
that. I absolutely love that. Again, the Terry Pratchett fan in me is just like, there's lots of bits through Pratchett's world of witchcraft where he talks about like a witch will make do with what they've got in their pockets at the moment, and they'll do a shambles, which is basically this idea. I think I've spoken about it before on the podcast, but it's basically this idea of pulling out of your pockets what you've got and using it in a particular way to see what's going on that you can't see with your eyes. And I love that. Like, again, that for me, that sort of folk magic element, I absolutely love that. And I love the fact that, you know, for you, it's what you need right now for this particular set of workings.
Yeah.
And then when you're done with it, it's the need is gone. So therefore you don't carry that with you anymore.
I mean,
Amazing.
my magical hero randomly is John Constantine from the Hellblazer comics. And he's a working class magician. And, you know, it's very, he's not a chaos magician, but it's very chaos what he does. And it is just basically the thing of, right, I need to banish this demon. What have I got? Right, I'll just use this and this. And he kind of makes magical tools out of things that are just laying around, like in the house. He's like, right, well, we've got to do it. We've got to do it now. We can't just, you know, go and buy all these things. So I do really love that, how, you know, like I was kind of the analogy of being in the playground and kind of using your bag as a shield and a ruler as, you know, a sword. Like, I just find that a really playful thing to do. I mean, yeah, I tend to just, when I feel like I need to do some magic, I'm like, well, it's almost like a creative thing. Like, well, what can I do with this, you know? And kind of going back to like the budget thing is, I've worked in a lot of charity shops, and whenever, you know, there'd be things that had come in that you can't sell, and they're almost a bit too good to just throw in a landfill. So whenever there'd be kind of like this pile of stuff, I'd go through it and I'd be like, well, what could I use this for? I quite like it, but I don't know what the magical intent is to it. So I do have a lot of random things where it's almost like it is like an art project. Like, how can that, you know, I know it could be magical, but in what way could it be magical? So I do like that. Like, yeah, just, yeah.
This is the danger though, isn't it? Because like, I am by nature a hoarder. I think most magical practitioners are, because you do have that element where you're like, oh, this will be useful one day. I don't know what, I don't know how, and I don't know where or why, but one day I'll find a use for this. And I think that's something that, you know, most magical practitioners kind of, you get to that point where, like, I think I said in one of the other videos, like, the most useful thing, interesting jars and curious wooden boxes, like the best gifts for witchy people. If you ever find in a charity shop a random interesting jar or a mysterious looking wooden box, just pick them up, give them to your witchy friends. Like, you will make their birthday, Christmas, whatever it is, you will absolutely make their gift giving, because I think it is one of those things. I mean, I'm literally sat here with an interesting jar like in front of me. It's just a jar, and it's a modern jar with a rubber seal, but it reminds me of a honey pot. It reminds me of the old, like, the Winnie the Pooh honey pots. So I don't know if this has actually ever been a honey jar. It's got a flat bit on here and a bit of like what looks like at one point it might have had a sticker. So it could well have been something that was, you know, mass produced and used to flog honey or something. I don't know. I really have no idea. The fact it's a rubber seal jar, though, suggests that maybe not. But as yet, I have found no purpose for this. But I know that I will.
Yeah.
Like, I know at some point, and I think this was probably 50p in a charity shop, or maybe £1. If something, I won't pay more than £1 for a jar, because I always think, I know, right? I mean, it has to be, and even at £1, it has to be a very special one.
Yeah.
Because, let me just see, like, again, I've got an empty herb jar here, and just next to me here, like, this is an old pickle jar, gherkin jar, and this has got my rosemary in it. And so I won't pay more than £1 for an interesting shaped jar, because I know that at home I've got a coffee jar or something else that will do the job. And sure, I know which one the TikTok witches would rather have. And it ain't this one. It ain't the one that used to have gherkins in it. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's that practical element of the jars and things that I use for very specific reasons. Like, I have a coffee jar just sat here, and
coffee jars are the one.
Coffee jars are perfect. Like, they're not airtight, but for herbs and things, they are absolutely perfect. But if you're looking for an airtight jar, or a jar to put, like, but with this, you can use this for moon water. You can use this. I mean, I've got moon water jars that are literally pickle jars and gherkin jars and whatever. And all I do to make it magical is to decorate the front of it with a Sharpie. You know, but I could go on TikTok and not on TikTok, I go on Etsy and find something very similar, a plain jar with something sort of engraved or some sort of, you know, painted on design, and pay 7, 8, 10, 12, 50, you know, upwards. And you really can find those prices on there. But I've also got, we were just talking about wands and things. Look, I have a lovely wand stick. It's a perfect wand stick. It's got the little handly bit for you to hold. For me, I like it because it's got this knobbly edge just there. I don't know whether you can see if I hold it up like that. Like, you can see the knobbly end. So for me, it's like my trigger finger sits on it.
Yeah.
My thumb rests on this knot just here, so it is absolutely perfect for the shape of my hand. But I've got this kind of, you know, it sits in the palm. I need to, like, do something and shave this off and smooth this out, but it sits in my palm really nicely. I've got a little trigger notch, I've got a little, like, firming thing for my thumb, and it's a nice enough size, and it's thick enough that I could probably put a crystal in the end or something. And I think what I'm going to do is wire wrap it with some copper wire, which I will get from an old plug. So I will literally find an old electrical item that is dead, that doesn't work anymore, that can't be repaired, and I will cut the plug off it, and I will strip the copper wire out because it's reusing, and I will wind the copper wire all the way round, because for me, that's like, it's a conductor of energy. So I'll do that. I may well, as I'm doing it, I mean, obviously I'll have it sensed and smudged and smoked and all of that stuff that I do to cleanse them. But then this will quite happily become a working wand, and it will be something that I have made, and it again, a bit like you with yours, it will work until it no longer does, and then somehow it will leave my possession, because that's what always happens. And whether it breaks or whether I lose it somewhere, it will be with me as long as it needs to be with me, and then it won't. And this I found on a walk, like, with the dogs. Literally, just, I was like, oh, that's an interesting shape. What? That's kind of what I've been looking for. And again, the universe just put me in the right place to find the right stick.
I love that, though, how you just kind of go, this feels right. My finger fits there, and
it fits perfectly. It literally, and it's like one of those things where I'm like, you know, as I'm waving things around, and you go, oh, I'm going to cast here, and I'm not actually casting because there's no intent going on right now. By the way, for all of you baby witches watching, that is a thing. I can wave this around and draw pentagrams as much as I like, but without the intent, I'm just waving a stick in the air. There is no magical practice working going, oh, look, oh, I'm now writing my name as if it was a sparkler. Oh, there's no intent, so it's not magical. It's only magical when you give it intent. But I know you've got some other interesting, curious shaped jars and interesting bits and bobs to show.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the thing is with me is that I collect a lot of oddities and bones and things. So usually it's a tie between who gets the jars. Is it going to be the load of mice bones I've found, or is it going to be a jar for a protection bottle or something like that? So, you know, I tend to have a lot of jars. I'll just kind of fight in for supremacy. But I do tend to do a thing in charity shops where if I find any metal vessel, I'll be like, oh, I could burn something in that, and then I'll find another. I'm like, oh, I like that better. Oh, I could burn something in that. So, you know, it's like I found this. Don't know whether.
Oh
And
yes.
it's like I don't know what it is, but it's kind of. I thought, oh yeah, I could burn something in that. You know, but then it kind of ended up being. It's almost like, oh, I don't want to burn something. That's quite nice.
Yeah, no, it looks very it looks very high-end magical. It looks like it should be sat there with crystals around it and sigils and like magical smoke coming off it and everything, like in a 1960s horror film. That's what it looks like. I love that.
Then just you know, stuff like that. But it's oh, that light then. But I think the best places to go for stuff in charity shops is if you kind of go to the kind of really, you know, small villages where the charity shops aren't, like in cities and stuff, everything's really overpriced and it's almost like everything's nearly new. Whereas you go for like the small town charity shops, like we've got some near here, and ones where they sell just tat everything. They're just everything, absolute tat. And we've got like a massive warehouse of one particular charity, and it's just absolute tat. Like it looks like old people's like houses have just been thrown onto the shelves, and everything's so cheap. And that's where you get so many great little vessels and things to burn things in, and all sorts of really little things with so much character in them that I think it's a great thing to do, is go to places like that rather than like,
oh, absolutely,
you know, buying something new.
So what else have I got to show you? Oh, I did find, I mean, this is ridiculous, and this is like bonkers. This was made in India, and this was £2 in a charity shop. It's a little, it's obviously not very old, but it is like a stained wooden box, like a little chest with, I don't know whether this is tin or something, and it's just, you know, it doesn't look that elegant or grand, but to me, like when I'm surrounded by like my tarot box, which also came from a charity shop, is another, you know, handmade Indian box. I like plain items. So when I've then got something like this, to me, this is like, oh, this is like this is a special fancy box, and I'm going to put special fancy items in here that again only come out on special occasions, because again it helps elevate those items in my mind, and it's a little lockable thing, so I could do all this. Like my brain goes, oh, you could do banishings in here, you could do anything, you could do something where like a year and a day working, because you literally lock it for the year and a day. Like how cool is that?
That's it.
That's, you know, and it's just a £2. I don't, probably originally it was a jewelry box or a trinket box or something. It might even be, I might even put tarot cards in there, because anything this size tends to end up with tarot cards in my life, or crystals. But talking about tarot cards, I have found a ridiculous number of cards and things. So I found my Sacred South Oracle cards. These were found in a charity shop. I use these not every Sunday. I used to use them every Sunday, but I use them on a Sunday very regularly. And I think these were something like, I think I only paid about £3 or £4. Again, I'm cheap. If it's more than a £5, I'm not going to buy it. So these were like £3 or £4. And they are absolutely, and again, I go through the whole thing of cleansing them, putting them through smoke, or putting them through my my sprays that I use, my smudge sprays, and I will then charge them and wrap them in the cloth and sleep with them. Sounds wrong, but I sleep with them under my pillow for a little while to have them charged to my energies. So they literally are like, hello, you've got a new owner. And literally when I see items like these in charity shops, and also the Halloween moon ritual ones, which came with, it would have been, Soul and Spirit, so not quite Spirit and Destiny, but not far off. And these again are cards that I find useful for different purposes. If I'm wanting to do something on a full moon, I will go through and find a full moon card that speaks to me for that particular working, and then I've got these, and I'll put them on one of, again, another charity shop find. These were 10p. These are either for, numbers in a cafe that you put the things on, or for menus, or for cards at Christmas, and I would just clip that onto a thing, and that then sits there. One of these people will see every Sunday, because I use it when I do my tarot readings for my modifying cards. And again, I think these were 50p, and it's things like that. Again, when I'm in a shop and I see something like this, my brain goes in two different directions instantaneously. One is, do you need that? And of course, like, instantly that's overridden by no, but I want it. But then comes in the logical side, where it's like, look, is this something I'm actually going to use, or is this weird, like, anthropomorphization thing that you've got, where you don't want things to be left and abandoned? Because for me, it's like, somebody has used these, and they are well used, and they are well worn. So somebody has used these for a ritualistic purpose over the years, and then they've come to the end of their life, and they didn't have a witchy friend to pass it on to, so they've given it to a charity shop. And by some fluke of space-time continuum, I happened to be in the charity shop at that moment with a spare couple of quid, looking for random things to buy. And so my head goes, is this meant to be, or am I just telling myself this is meant to be as an excuse to buy it? Okay, that's a possibility. But then it's like, I will hold the item, and I'm like, do you want to come home with me? Like, I can give you a second life, but equally, if the vibe from that item is very much like, do you know what, my owner died and I was connected to that, not so much with these, but like with other cards and things, it's like, you know, my owner died and my spirit was connected to them, and therefore I don't really want to have another owner. And I'll kind of sense the item almost like that. This sounds so new agey, but it's what I do. And I will literally kind of go, if you come home with me, you will get a second working life. And you will be worked. I will use you for your intents, or I can leave you here and somebody else may well pick you up and use you for those purposes. But there is very much that element of, I like giving new life to items that have been abandoned, and I like giving new life to items, as you said, with those metal items. It's like stuff that has perhaps lived one life in, you know, it's lived a grand life in a bain marie, and it served peas and carrots to the masses in a pub, and then you've gone along and picked this up and gone, now you're going to be used for magical purposes as a scrying bowl or whatever it may be, and you're completely changing its intent and purpose and giving it a whole second life. And so for me, as much as this is about budget and saving money and finding items, there is also that element of stopping items going to waste, stopping the production of new items. Like, I haven't gone and bought a new Halloween ritual set. I will never need to go and buy a deck to use for a full moon specifically, because I have my full moon cards. And so for me, it kind of ticks multiple boxes. But yeah, anyway, that's all I've got to show and tell. I mean, I could keep going for ages, you know, candlesticks and all sorts of bits and pieces that I've got. But
I'm kind of the same when it comes to books. I mean, this is a big thing for me, is book buying, because, you know, like we mentioned on the other episode about how, you know, back in the day, all you had was the option to buy things in like Borders or something new, and the limited, you know, things that you can that you had access to. But now, obviously, the internet, secondhand books, it's fantastic. But it's kind of sort of related to what you were saying with those cards. Like, you know, when I started buying books online, there was always this hesitation to buy secondhand magic books, because I had this weird idea that, like, oh, well, if this person used things out of this, or is that kind of passing it on to me in some weird way? And it's like, it's a load of shit, you know. So now I'm really into rescuing the tattiest, most grubby, disgusting looking books off eBay, rather than just buying it a bit cheap brand new. You know, I'll kind of go for the ones that have been written in and things like that, and
dog-eared, and
so I tend to, I mean, I've got like a wish list. I mean, one of the greatest sites for kind of books in general, just as a reference, I used a site called Goodreads, which is really good because you can build up like a to read list, or you can keep track of what you've been reading, and all the reviews on there, very, very genuine, honest reviews. about really obscure books. So, you know, if you're kind of trying to find some magic books that you think, oh, well, I've been looking at that, I'm not sure about it, then it's good to read another reviews, and then you see, oh, recommended ones off that, and build up a good list, you know. So there's, you know, I'll have like a big list on that Goodreads, and periodically I'll go on eBay and put one in, kind of see if one comes up really cheap. And that's how I've ended up with all these books, because I'm just one of those people who kind of sits there at night just going, right, I'll see if they've got this shit, see if it's come up. So, you know, I've ended up with a load of books just because I've been one of those hunters. But I do love secondhand bookshops, and you know, I absolutely love it, especially if it's like a secondhand bookshop that has got a weird section. You know, I always get really, really excited when it's you know, it can kind of be, their definition of weird can be weird, but you know, it's really exciting if you get some kind of magic books in there.
And again, a tip for anybody, like, you do not need books. You do not need any books. Like, do your research online. You can download stuff now. There are PDFs available where books that are now out of copyright, you can go and download, like, the every ancient text that was once upon a time held by middle class and upper class white men only. You can now go and find those online in multiple places for pennies. So go and check those out. But like, at the end of the day, once you've got the basic knowledge of how you want to practice your witchcraft, just because there is a new book out with a new twist on it, that's okay. Do you need that book? If you're settled in what you're doing now, if you're comfortable with the type of magic you're practicing and the type of witchcraft you're practicing, and you've kind of got, you know, you're learning and you're studying your own way of doing things, and you're testing your own workings and your own rituals, do you need another book by somebody else to give you their opinion on their craft and tell you how you should do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, this is that thing where, for me, it's like, there's a couple of books that have come out last year that I do want to read and I will eventually pick up, but they're not something that I think is going to radically change my way of working, especially like this many years into it. It might add a nuance, or it might be a new way of looking at something. I might go, oh, that's interesting. But am I necessarily going to take that on board and have it affect my practice? You know, possibly not. Sorry, to everybody watching this, my camera keeps moving of its own accord. So if I keep adjusting it, it's nothing spooky. It's just a dodgy wired bit at the bottom of the camera. But yeah.
But what I do, I mean, you know, sometimes, you know, magic books, if you think, oh yeah, this is the one for me, and you know, you buy it brand new or whatever, and you get it and you're like, oh, this is really vague, it's not actually giving me anything. You know, sometimes it's like proper Russian roulette with some magic books, you know, and they can be very overpriced. But I mean, a good thing is say if you got Amazon Prime or Kindle or whatever, it's sometimes on Amazon they'll let you read a bit of a preview of them.
Yeah, like the first 5 pages or something.
Yeah, to give you an idea of it. And you know, if you're that way inclined as well, then you can download a copy of the book and then see if you like it, and then you can buy it. You can do that, you know.
It is possible. It is possible.
But, you know,
and again,
just to get the feel of it, and just, you know, before you drop a load of money on things, you know.
Absolutely. And like, gone are the days though. I mean, like, you and I have spent many, many, many hours in what was Borders Bookshop, an old bookshop where it wasn't even that old, but it was a chain where they had a cafe and you could sit and read books and magazines and things over a coffee. And you basically buy a coffee and you spend 4 hours reading the books, or you take the book into there were various areas with little chairs and things set up. Especially now that witchcraft has become a much bigger financial sort of market and a much bigger way of, you know, much more of a cash cow than it ever has been before. And so there are more and more and more books being released every single year trying to get that money. And so I would not condemn anybody for, you know, going into a bookshop and standing there reading it for 2 hours if you've got access, or as you said, getting the Kindle and, you know, buying a Kindle version of it legally and just having it on your tablet. Like, again, I know lots of people that say, well, that's not proper witchcraft because you need to be able to turn the... No, you don't need to be able to turn the page. Like if you've got it on a tablet, if you've got it written on your tablet, then great. That's just as much turning a page as that is.
Yeah.
It's that gatekeeping thing again.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my preferences I like physical books. I like time away from screens and books. But you know, I mean, one of the best things to do is, you know, like we're saying about just keeping an eye on eBay. And if there is a book where you're like, maybe I won't like it, I'm not sure, and then buying it, and then having a read and going, let's crap this, and then you can stick it back on eBay.
Put it back on eBay. Yeah, that's exactly. As their new advert says, buy a thing, sell a thing, never ever throw a thing. I love that. That suits. I mean, I very rarely sell on eBay because I just can't be bothered. To be honest, it's a lot of hassle. I need to have a good clear out and stick things on eBay and that. But it is, I think that is actually a very, very good piece of advice. Again, because it also is recycling that same £10. It's kind of, you know, you buy it, you then get the book, you get to read it, make your notes, photocopy it, or whatever it is that you need to do, and then you then put that back out there into the cosmos. Somebody else buys it, and that £10 then you go and spend on another book. So effectively that £10 is buying you multiple books. But the one thing that neither of us has touched on is the dying endangered species of libraries. If you are lucky enough to live somewhere where you have got a library, you are able to order in books, and it might take a while, and you might feel, especially if you're young and you're new to witchcraft, you might feel like, oh, I can't go up and ask the lady behind the thing about witchcraft books. It's a bit like if somebody is coming out for the first time and not wanting to go to the LGBT section of the library, because in case somebody sees you, you know. So I understand that on many levels, on both aspects, trust me. But you are able to go up to the librarian and say, do you have this book by this author? And they will say, oh, I'll check on the microfiche or on the computer. It's not microfiche anymore, but they'll check on the computer. And if they haven't got it in that library, they can order it in. Even if your library is a book bus, even if your library is one of those like tiny ones that are just about going 3 days a week for 4 hours a day, even if that's where your library is, they are linked into the other one. Certainly in the UK, they are linked into the wider network, and they can order those books in for you. You've just got to be brave enough to go and ask for it. And again, on that, if you're not brave enough to ask for the magical books, maybe you shouldn't be using the magical books for magical purposes. You know, I'm just saying, again, not gatekeeping, but you've got to be able to say, can I have this book, please? Even if you're buying it from Waterstones or wherever, again, you've got that same thing of being seen with that book, or having it under your bed and your mum finding it, or whatever else. So again, that knowledge is all out there. Plus, I mean, these days, the internet is your friend. You can find PDF versions of books, like you can find knockoff versions of tarot cards. I would not at all recommend buying PDF versions of books and knockoff versions of tarot cards. I would not recommend that, just because they have been mass produced in China by people that really don't give a toss about the ethical side or anything else. They just want your money, and they're just ripping off other people's work. So I would personally not recommend doing that. However, I do know I've got knockoff versions of tarot cards because I bought them thinking they were the genuine thing. And in one case, that knockoff was enough for me to decide, actually, I'm not buying that tarot deck because I didn't like the way it was done. The 3 or 4 pictures I saw online, I was like, oh, that looks good. When the deck turned up, I got it on eBay. It turned out it wasn't a real one. It was a fake. It was tiny. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't spend 25 quid on this, because my God, this is not my style of deck. This is not working for me.
I know other witches who do that, who do have bought the knockoff cheap ones just to see the cards, and you know, just to see how they feel, and then gone, oh, this is actually really good, I'll get the proper one, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I've done that, bought a deck of cards. The Lightseer deck is a deck that I was after for a while, and I was like, oh, I really want to get this deck. Eventually got it on eBay. Turns out that it was a, you know, QR code on the back, download the booklet from China. And okay, it's like a 3/4 size. And I was like, bugger. But then I was like, actually, this deck I really like, and this deck feels really nice. And then I managed to find a full-size genuine deck on eBay that I then did go ahead and purchase, because I really did like that deck. And it was one of those decks where I was like, actually, yeah, I like this. But if you are somebody wanting to start a tarot, like to start tarot, for instance, you can find the Rider-Waite deck is out of copyright. So it basically has become public domain. So you can find versions of the Rider-Waite deck. Hang on, I've actually got a version here. This is the Radiant Rider-Waite deck. So this is a slightly different, ever so slightly different version. They've basically upped the saturation and slightly altered some of the colors to make it a different deck. And this is currently in print in copyright. So this will cost you, if you're buying it brand new, it's like 23, 25 quid. But you can find the original Rider-Waite, which is basically this exact design, just not quite as intense saturation. You can find this online and print them off yourself, and you can print them in black and white and color them in, so you put in your own essence into it, stick them onto some card or print them onto card, and you've got your own Rider-Waite Smith tarot deck for literally pennies. And there is no difference to that deck than this deck or any other Rider-Waite, because it is out of copyright, and so it is exact same cards. It doesn't have to be a huge expensive thing. You can find all sorts of things that are out of copyright, as I was saying earlier about like the old witchcraft books. You can find these readily available online. You really can. Runes as well, like the easiest way to make your own rune set. Have a look online, print off there's plenty on Pinterest. Find a picture where it's got like the runes on a little thing, cut those out, glue them on a bit of Poundland felt on the back, so you've got a nice different felt, and you can have them upright that way with the rune actually on the face down on the bottom, and you've got a rune set. It costs you literally maybe £1 for the felt, or if you've got scraps of it left over, as I obviously have, you just use your scraps. You've got a rune set. It doesn't have to be expensive. Go and find some pebbles and a marker pen.
Yeah, I mean, talking of DIY divination tools, I actually just spied something that I haven't mentioned before.
Go on.
So another thing in the IoT was come up with start using methods of divination. And so they were like, well, just pick something and make your own, right? I can't believe I still have this. This is like...
Oh, okay. Wow.
This was like made out of... When I was in art college, I just got a bit of board that was kind of... It's all marked at the back where I've like drawn lines for some other project. I got some like laminate, sticky about plastic. Did that. I just kind of like tea stained it, and then just got some nice fancy brown ink to do all the things. And then what I used as a plancher was actually an old guitar plectrum. So I had this with it.
That looks really effective, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it did. It was like, it did the job, but I mean, it was a method that I didn't really ever get into, but I've kept it just because it's just ridiculous how I just kind of knocked that together. So again, you don't have to do anything fancy.
But again, I'm a great believer in, if you're doing something DIY, you're putting your own essence into that. Yeah. Your own creative spark is going into that. So Neil, we've talked kind of all around the houses a little bit, but just to kind of bring it back to sum up and to close this episode, like, what advice would you give to someone who maybe wants some witchy stuff, but looks at some of the prices and is just kind of put off? Because we've all been through a pandemic. All of us are perhaps feeling that pinch more than we have done before, and disposable income is really tight. And these days, we're having to pay exorbitant heating bills and everything else, and the cost of living is going up. And so maybe where somebody before had a spare £1 or £2 for an interesting jar, they might not even have that now. So what would you say to somebody who's maybe thinking, that they would like some nice witchy things, but really is struggling like financially? What advice would you give?
I think it goes back again to seeing what you have around you that you can make into magic with the intent that you have given it. So just even looking around your bedroom, and I mean, if I was to do that, look around the room, and if there's a certain item that you think resembles a chalice, and you know, you might have like you might even have a special breakfast bowl or something that you always like using, you know, you could use that. Or if there is like a you know, a special some kind of pointy thing, you know, that you've got, just like, I guess it could be a pointy thing, I guess maybe just anything that's got it's special to you, like you were going on about, you know, at Christmas you get your special cutlery out, that kind of thing. But just anything that has something some value to you, just use that. You can, and just see it as making do for now until you would like the ideal thing. Don't let yourself feel like, oh, I'll have to put all this magic on pause until I can get all this set of things. Just for now, just find the things that do kind of bear some semblance to these tools. Or, I mean, for instance, with me, I've just started learning how to make things out of paper clay, and now the limits are endless. For like £4 worth of paper clay, then you can make your own little tools if you want. Or it's just about looking at things that you've got or you found, or like in charity shops, you know, you can alter them, and you know, you don't have to put that pressure on yourself, that self-induced peer pressure, to get all the good stuff. Just see what you have and what you can get access to for the amount of money that you've got, and just make and do, you know, just
absolutely,
whatever will make it important to you, then just yeah.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And I also think that, just to add to that, you know, as we've said many a time, this is the best pointy stick that you're ever going to have. You don't need a wand or an athame. Like, all of witchcraft comes down to intent at the end of the day. And even if you have nothing, you have no magical items at all, you have your own energy, you have your own intent, and you have your own connection to the ethos, to whatever you personally connect with and whatever you personally believe in. And trust me, whatever powers you are working with, if you want to think of the gods and goddesses, or if you're working with whatever energies, all of that will forgive the fact that you don't have this elaborate, you know, handmade golden chalice. Because trust me, the majority of people that have worked magic over the millennia that magic has been worked haven't been those people. It's been the working class folk that needed to look to magic to find answers in their lives. And trust me, there is not a single deity, there is not a single energy available in the universe that will look down on you for not using the right paraphernalia. There are plenty of witches that will look down on you for doing that, but they can all go fuck themselves, quite frankly. And if you are one of those people watching this, please unsubscribe. Like, just unsubscribe, because you're never going to like the content that we put out, because it's not for you. Like, but I also agree with something else you said there, Neil, about adding your own touch and DIYing something. Like, if you want a really nice jar to collect your moon water in, get an old coffee jar and some pens, and you don't have to be hugely artistic. The thing with glass is that you can see through it. Get a design, like get something that's got a design on it you like, put it underneath and draw around it. It doesn't have to be mass-produced, gem-studded, amazing. It can be handmade, hand-altered, hand-designed, where you're putting your energy into something. Trust me, that will have more magical impact than the most glorious, wonderful, hand-blown jar that you bought in a market, or that you bought in an upmarket shop in London and you spent hundreds of pounds on it. An old Nescafe jar that you've put your intent into and you have hand designed with a load of felt tip pens that your kids have used, that will have far more intent than anything you're ever going to be able to buy. It's just we have been indoctrinated into the, you know, things that are designed a certain way are better. They're not, especially when it comes down to magic. So yeah, absolutely.
But that,
and again, if in doubt, go pick up a twig.
I mean, going full circle to Austin Osman's Bear, just, you know, the stuff that he did for magic, by just sitting down with little scraps of paper and drawing sigils, and the things that he manifested and wrote about were just bits of paper and a pen. You know,
some of the most powerful workings and the most important workings of my life have been done with scraps of paper and a pen. Literally scraps of paper and a pen and a match or a lighter, and it has had the most impact, far more than times where I've sat with all of the gubbins and all of the paraphernalia. In the moment when you need something done and you need it in that exact moment, trust me, some scraps of paper, some pen, a pen, like even just like an old scrappy back of a bus ticket, whatever it is, that you can use a bay leaf, but you know, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's the intent, and that has had far more impact in my workings than stuff that I've sometimes spent a lot of money and a lot of time creating, because in the moment you need something done there and then. But yeah, absolutely. Once again, with magic, it all comes down to intent. Who would have thought that, eh? I mean, who would have thought the whole point of magical intent is magical intent? There you go. Go figure. But anyway, I've really enjoyed chatting today, Neil. I have really enjoyed this.
It's been a good one.
It's been a good one. My hair has never looked messier, and I don't even care because, again, I am loving the vibe. So, So anyway, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. We are possibly going to be uploading more than just every month, so look out for bonus episodes that are coming your way. But even if those aren't up, you will find a Witchy Wednesday with on the last Wednesday of every month. The best way to get notified when these are coming up, the bonus episodes, is to follow us on the Mixcloud and subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, and also click your bell so that YouTube notifies you each and every time we upload a video. If you do both of those things, you will be guaranteed to have a little notification pop up or a little email come through whenever these are uploaded. But yeah, thanks ever so much for watching. Do you want to sign off, Neil, in your wonderful cloak?
Goodbye.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's the only way that's going to go, isn't it? But that is it from us. All that's left to do is to say, as we always do, stay you, stay safe, stay authentic, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.